Hey guys, it's Psychosis here, and today I'll be reviewing The Call of the Wild by Jack London. And I have another copy. I have another copy of this somewhere. I don't know where it went, but I bought myself this copy, and it has a bunch of extra short stories. It's not just the book, but as you can see, even with the short stories, it's a very short book. I think, yeah, it's only 88 pages. It's a very short book, but because yeah, it's a very short book. And I read this originally when I was a lot younger, and I always loved it, but it's been so long since I read it that I barely remembered. All I remembered it before rereading it is that the ending is really brutal, and it is. But yeah, anyways, today I'm reviewing it. As you can see, it's got a fun cover, more Alaska native theme kind of painting. It's kind of a cool artwork, but yeah. Today I'll be reviewing The Call of the Wild. And yeah, what's cool of this book actually is the main character isn't a person. It's actually a dog. And I think it's one of my only books that one of the only books I've really read where the main character is a non-speaking human. But despite that though, he's a great character. And the main character is a dog, and he's a dog, and his name is Buck, and he's 100. In the beginning of the book, he's a 140-pound Saint Bernard Shepherd mix, so he's a decently sized dog. Wouldn't say too large. All my dogs are probably bigger, but yeah. So he lives in California with this guy called the Judge, and he lives a super lax life until one of the serving hands, because the guy who owns him is super rich, kidnaps the dog Buck for money because he's poor and he needs it to take care of his family. So he gets kidnapped from his life, and then he gets sent up north to the Yukon, up in like Canada and Alaska, and then is forced to become a sled dog. And then from there, his instincts start kicking in, and the rest of the book is just him going from person to person and doing different things, different riding, being a sled dog for different sled teams, meeting new people, people going out of his life. But as the book goes along, his instincts kick in more and more, and he starts becoming more and more wild. And he starts feeling the call of the wild more and more. And yeah, that's the gist of the book. And as I said, the ending is really brutal too. It just ends in like such a brutal way and kind of sad too. But yeah, so yeah, he gets kidnapped, and then he goes up the Yukon, and it's a great book. I will say that the writing is pretty good. It has this rough American edge to it I really like, but yet it also seems very nice as well, like well written. And yeah, and since the setting, I love the setting. It's set up in like Alaska and the Yukon. And it reminds me of living there when I did. It's pretty cool. And this is like what set way, he wrote this way in the early 1900s. So this was when the gold rush was happening. And get to see some of that with how the people are and how they're all about dogs and trying to get dogs to pull sleighs for their gold they find and stuff like that. And yeah, and along the way he deals with dogs, and he starts, like I said, the whole book is him just losing it essentially. That's what this book is. It's just a dog who's pampered dog who gets sent into the wild, and he begins losing it with time. And you can kind of guess how the ending is, because by the end of the book he's a totally different dog than he was at the beginning. But it's a really cool book. Like I said, the ending is very brutal and kind of sad considering the context that leads to that. But yeah, it's a great book. And yeah, it's just short though, but it's a very fast read. If I wasn't tired and I first sit down and reading it, I could have read this in like a single night. It's only like 88 pages. I could sit down for a few hours and read it. And yeah, and so that's kind of just the story, and he gets passes for different people and stuff. So he's first owned by like these French Canadian dog riders, and then he gets, and the owner, him and the rest of the dogs he rides with, they get in the hands of like this Scottish half breed man, as the book calls him, and then they meet this like, they get bought out by this like dysfunctional family that does not know what they're doing and shouldn't have ever been up north, and that's like a disaster. He almost dies, Buck, and then he meets another person, and yeah, and that leads to the end of the book. But yeah, it's a very good book. I don't want to spoil it. It's kind of seen as like a American classic, I guess. I can kind of vouch for that. I thought it was very good. Like I said, the writing is excellent. And as of now, this is the only book I've read by Jack London. And like I said, originally I read this when I was a kid, and I think it went over my mind just how good this book is. I'm like, oh, it's a favorite. But now rereading, I can definitely say it's a favorite. And yeah, it's a short read, so if I ever come back. And as of now, this copy of mine has a whole bunch of other like short stories, but I haven't read those yet, just the book called Wild. So maybe I'll read the short stories. Yeah, and of course, because the dog, yeah, of course it has its flaws. So if it's kind of awkward at times, because he's a dog and he doesn't say anything, so it's more the narrator just talking what he's doing. It's sometimes there's a parts where it feels as if he talks about Buck and not as not like the main character form, because it's clear Buck's the main dog, the main character, the main focus, but he'll like focus on the people and stuff talking, or talk about other dogs and put like focus on the other dogs, which is maybe is a good thing, adds characterization to the other characters, and it kind of adds depth to the world that Buck is in. But yeah, yeah, it's just a very good book. I really liked it, and the setting is fantastic. It's set up in the Yukon, up in Alaska and Canada, up north. And so reading that may remind me of Alaska and me living there. I didn't live that far up north, but it's still cool. Alaska's a pretty cool place, and yeah. And also, this book is advertised wrong so many times. I don't understand, because like a lot of people consider this more like a children's book, but rereading it, this book is pretty brutal in a lot of places. Like there's a lot of like violence, what could be considered animal abuse, and yeah, and like I said, at one part Buck almost dies. Like he's almost murdered by somebody. And yeah, he doesn't hesitate to like talk about that, about violence and death. And I mean, it fits the themes of this book, but I mean, if you were a kid and read this, you'd kind of be a little traumatized in a few scenes, because it's like pretty violent the way he describes it all. Like dogs kill each other. He witnesses dogs killing each other too. He even kills a dog at least one dog in the span of this book. Buck does, and it's like, yeah, it's just a very brutal book in that regard, but it's a very good book. And like how it was in the previous review I did about Solaris, I want to talk more, but I can't really say too much about like spoiling the entire book. I kind of just gave the gist of it. He's just a pampered dog, and then he's kidnapped and he's forced up north, and he becomes a sled dog and becomes more wild of time, and finds he has more strength in him than he ever realized. And as the book goes along, his like connection between being a domestic dog and being a full-fledged feral wild dog, the line gets even more blurred and narrower until it's like fully gone in the end. But yeah, it's a very good book. And yeah, it kind of has meaning about it though, deep kind of meaning about how our instincts are very strong and how in the end we can't fully break free of our instincts. That's kind of like the big philosophical thing, the main core message of this book, as portrayed through the eyes of a dog. But yeah, it's a very good book. It's just short and brutal, and yeah, the characterization thing is kind of weird, but it makes sense. They've seen it done a lot of times. I haven't really read a lot of books with animal characters, but I've seen shows and movies with like non-talking dogs and stuff, and that's kind of the thing they do is the human characters drive the story, but the story soul is with the animals. That's kind of the gist of it. And yeah, I've had this book copy of this book for a while, and I don't know why it took me so long to read it, but I'm glad I did. It was super fast to read. I enjoyed this book. It's still one of my favorites. I can definitely still say it's another favorite of mine if I were to try to make a favorites list of my favorite books. This is one of them. It's a fantastic book. And yeah, Jack London seems like an amazing writer. And this is the only book of his I've read, but I've seen a few of his books pop up on the internet, people talking about them, and there's a few that I really want to read. This is probably his most well-known one though. But yeah. Anyways, that's kind of my review. I think as a final rating, I will give this like an 8 to a 9 out of 10. Fantastic book. If you find it, which you probably could find a copy of this easily, I would highly recommend picking it up and sitting down and just reading it. And yeah, if you have children and someone says it's more of a children's book, it's kind of like more mature children's book, you could say, if you were to give this to a child. Like, disclaimer alert, kind of. Viewer discretion is advised for children with this book if they read it, because it's kind of brutal, like I said, in a few spots. But yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review of me giving this book a 9 out of 10. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend reading it if you find it, which is probably easy because it's a popular book, or at least it has some form of popularity. And yeah, I hope, anyways, 9 out of 10. Great book. And anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review. If there's any other books you want me to review or anything specific, just let me know in the comments. I always enjoy reading new books, revisiting books like this one. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the review, and I'll see you all next time whenever I review another book or finish another book I'm reading, or whenever I make another video then. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Goodbye.